it's Kate and welcome back to Marvelous Videos. Today we look at the most horrifying Junji Ito horror story adaptation, Tomie. Explained. Hey everyone and welcome back to another horror movie video with Marvelous Videos. For today's episode we will be talking about the brilliant Japanese manga artist who is very well known and loved for his works in the horror genre. It is none other than Junji Ito. He has made some thrilling and full of terror stories which have always managed to shake the nerve of all horror fans. Today we are bringing to you an amazing adaptation of one such classic horror manga, which went on to take the form of a whole film series. Tomie is a graphically horrifying and disturbing manga, which was adapted into a film in 1998 by director Ataru Oikawa. It's the first film in the franchise of the Tomie films, which currently has around 9 movies. Shocking, right? Well, Junji Ito did keep on giving us this brilliant body horror manga series, which had to be made into movies. Diving into the world of Japanese horror films, Tomie definitely stands out as a film as well as the character, who is a girl with a lot of mysteries revolving around her. It came out as a fantastic adaptation, which clearly pleased all the manga fans based on how closely it followed the manga. Even for the casual viewer, Tomie has a lot of confusion and blood-dripping screams to offer. Well, let us get into the story of all the events that take place in the film. At the end of this video, you will be able to decide for yourself how Tomie terrified you. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Tomie Will Not Die, Tomie, 1998. The film begins with a rather horrific detail when we see a guy with an eye patch carrying around a plastic bag. What could be in the bag, you may wonder? Well, that is exactly when, through a cut in the plastic, we see an eye of a human as it opens, and apparently it's an orange eye. It looks like this man might be carrying the head of a human inside that bag. We are soon introduced to a girl named Sakiko Izumisawa, who is played by Mami Nakamura. She is a high school student who is visiting her psychiatrist. Currently, she seems to be going through hypnotherapy because of insomnia and a rather bizarre series of dreams. She's also trying to clear up her head because it looks like she has amnesia as well. Poor Sakiko has memory loss and she cannot recall what happened in her life after a truly awful accident which took place. There we have it, our first cue for all the mystery which will slowly unfold throughout the film. Remember the guy earlier? Well, it turns out he is the new neighbor of Sakiko. He's probably feeding the severed human head. Wait until their lives get all twisted up and mingled. Dr. Hosono, who is Sakiko's psychiatrist, played by Yuriko Taguchi, is trying to figure out what her patient Sakiko talks about in a recording from one of their sessions. And now we get the first mention of Tomie, through Sakiko's voice. She also seems to be talking about a guy named Tanabe, but everything is pretty vague at this point. Oh, but now things are about to get way more interesting, because it turns out Dr. Hosono has a visitor. Detective Harada, who is played by Tomorowo Taguchi, is apparently investigating the murder of one of Sakiko's classmates from her previous school. Guess who this classmate is? Tomie Kawakami. That's the name of the girl who was apparently murdered. After 3 months from that incident, somehow 4 of her classmates committed suicide, and around 7 of them were sent to a mental hospital. Where did Sakiko go? Well, that's when she's transferred to a different school, just like most of the remaining students from that class. But it looks like one student kind of vanished, and there's still no trace of him. There's always one exception, right? It is possible that Tomie was murdered in the most horrible way possible. People have said that she was killed by her classmate and her body dismembered. Oh, but wait, that's not the entire story about Tomie. Apparently, in the Kifu police station, this same name Tomie was recorded around 3 years ago. But there is a surprise. It was not just the same name, but the same person. And the student who currently cannot be found is the guy who murdered Tomie. His name is Tanabe Kuji. Remember Sakiko mentioned his name in one of her hypnotherapy sessions? Well, this doesn't seem like it's a coincidence. Hold on to your chairs or sofa or bed, wherever you are sitting right now, because you're about to be shocked by the information that the detective is about to disclose. So apparently, the crime scene of Tomie's murder from the Kifu police station is Sakiko's apartment. As it turns out, Sakiko at that time was dating Tanabe, who was then taken by Tomie. We all know what the detective is trying to imply now. Sadly for him, Sakiko is suffering from amnesia, and she doesn't remember any of this taking place. So clearly even the doctor doctor is in the dark about what actually went on in her past. Now, another shocking event happens when back at the eye patch guy's apartment, we find that the severed head has apparently grown fully into a teenage girl. We don't get to see her face for a very long time in the film. That sure is the way to build up some major suspense. Now it looks like Sakiko is seeing a girl in her dreams who has a black mark on her face, but she cannot recall what she exactly looks like or even who she is. Sakiko also has a strange feeling, as if she's lost a friend but she doesn't know who or when or how. Oh, but her dating life seems to be going pretty steady, because she is currently seeing a guy named Sega. The most bizarre thing comes to light when the detective encounters the eye patch guy, and he tells Harada that the dismembered head of the girl was still alive in the mud. Now that explains how he was able to feed it, but if the head of the girl was able to regenerate itself into a full-grown body, that does not look like a human trait at all. Apparently, this girl is said to be the most beautiful girl by any man who lays his eyes upon her. It's as if her beauty drives them mad and insane, which turns them into mental patients. So the way with which the film is proceeding, there is no doubt about it that this dismembered headed girl, who is prettier than anyone else, who can regenerate herself over and over again, is our mystery girl, Tomie Kawakami. More and more deaths start to occur wherever this Tomie goes. The men who work at the diner where she had taken a job have all ended up dead. It's the same place where Sakiko's now boyfriend Sega also works. It is pretty clear at this point that she is after Sakiko, who sadly does not remember a thing about her. The friend who Sakiko left that she had lost was indeed Tomie, who was her best friend. Sakiko once again has nightmare visions where she is covered in blood, and there's a headless body of a girl in front of her. We are now reaching the climax of the film where our two main characters, Tomie and Sakiko, will finally have an encounter. Sakiko suddenly wakes up at her psychiatrist's office, tied to the bed, and guess who is sitting in front of her? Tomie, alive and well. With strange orange eyes, she clearly looks like a scary creature in the body of a girl. She confronts Sakiko for not even remembering who she is. Tomie then goes on to tell Sakiko how lucky she is because she's a woman. She can marry a guy, have a child, and then turn into an old lady. But because Tomie is a monster, she will forever stay as beautiful as she is now. Oh, but it looks like Sakiko has a savior after all. Sega comes in with a knife and coldly stabs Tomie to death. Sakiko runs away with her body to probably destroy what's left of her. But remember, Tomie can regenerate herself. That is exactly what happens. The ending of the film is way more strange than anything you could have imagined. It turns out Sakiko is trying to run away from Tomie, but then Tomie reveals something which is way too scary. She tells Sakiko that they are one and the same, meaning Tomie is Sakiko and Sakiko is Tomie. Tomie then goes on to kiss Sakiko and they both suddenly start laughing together, which is when Sakiko lights a flare and sets Tomie on fire. You would probably think that now Tomie's terror would have ended for good, but guess it didn't. Now we see Sakiko is living a normal life, constantly taking pictures and being her own self. When she goes to develop a picture of herself, she sees something which there appears to be a mole under her left eye, something which she didn't have before. Sakiko then looks in the mirror and guess what happens? Tomie's reflection appears in the mirror smiling, and that is how the film ends. Okay, well, we know you definitely didn't see that coming. The film gives us a lot of scary moments with gory blood everywhere and horrifying murder scenes. It shows the bond and the relationship between Tomie and Sakiko in depth, and how Tomie slowly takes control over Sakiko's life as the movie goes on, which shows us a lot of disturbing parts. Even though we already know that Tomie is a monster, trying to figure out what she actually is after is what keeps the film so engaging for the audience. Interest in her character definitely peaked with the way Oikawa refused to let us see her face pretty much throughout more than the first half of the movie. Oikawa's Tomie leaves all the horror fans, be it manga or not, wanting more of what happens next, and that is how the sequels take place, exploring and narrating all different kinds of stories which revolve around our monster Tomie. It's definitely worth watching if you're hoping to catch a classic Japanese body horror movie. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and watch Tomie 1998 and don't forget to put down your comments about what you think about Tomie. Is she a monster to you or a sad teenage girl who is doomed for eternity? Well, with that guys, we have come to the end of another mind-blowing episode. We hope you enjoyed watching it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and click on like on the way out so that we can keep bringing you more such videos. Until then, stay safe and have a good one.